Hey, what's up YouTubers, and welcome back to another Todd E. Walnuts collection overview video. Today we're going to go over the Scorpion releasing titles in my collection. It's mostly Blu-rays, but there are a few DVDs. For the most part, I believe these are alphabetized. There may be one or two out of place. If so, please forgive me. We're going to start with Blu-rays and we're going to end off with the DVDs. And this is my collection right here. I don't have very many of them, but I really enjoy this company and I want to kind of show you guys what I have, and maybe I can give you some ideas for your collection. So get yourselves relaxed, get a beverage, get a snack, kick your feet up, and let's check this out. So we'll slide here into the first shelf. Seems like it's pretty clean. I try to keep my movies and my shelves as clean as possible, but sometimes a little dust gets in there. The first one is called A Candle for the Devil. And I'm sure many of you know about the company Scorpion Releasing. It was owned and operated by a man named Walter Olson, and his brother Bill Olson, or William Olson, was the owner and proprietor of Code Red. And both of these labels were very similar. They put out a lot of different types of genre movies like horror, western, some of the kind of sexploitation, drive-in style movies, action movies, and you'll see a wide variety of these movies as I go through. Unfortunately, both of the gentlemen have passed, and it's pretty unfortunate. But I guess, their spirit will live through us when we watch their movies. So I'm very thankful, even though I have a small collection, I'm very thankful to have what I have from Scorpion Releasing. The next one here is called Barbarossa. This is a Western with Willie Nelson and Gary Busey. I think this was from the early 80s, 1982. So already from the first two titles, we have kind of a religious, like a satanic horror movie from the 70s, and then we jumped right into an American Western from the 80s. And then we go into kind of a beach sex comedy. This is called The Beach Girls. This one came out in 1982. And like Code Red, Scorpion would have, from time to time, would have a host for the show. And this one is Maria, I believe. It says you can watch Fun Facts and Trivia segment with Cat's Meow. So there was a couple different hostesses that they hired to kind of make the movie almost like a Elvira type. Next one here is called Charlie Chan and the Curse of the Dragon Queen. Movie from 1980. You can see Michelle Pfeiffer there. It's Michelle Pfeiffer and Roddy McDowall there in the middle. And Michelle Pfeiffer, I already mentioned her. I thought Angie Dickinson was in here. There she is right there. But I'm not seeing her name. Oh, there it is right there, Angie Dickinson. So this was an early 80s movie. Had some pretty good actors in that one. All right. The next one here is The Church. It was produced by Dario Argento, directed by Michele Soavi. It's another kind of a satanic type movie from 1989. And you can, that scene right there is pretty popular. A lot of people probably remember that scene. And then they re-released The Church with this beautiful slipcover of that same image. Same thing on the back. Next one is called City on Fire. This one has kind of an odd cast. You have Leslie Nielsen, Henry Fonda, Shelley Winters, and Ava Gardner. All of which are excellent actors, just kind of a hodgepodge, kind of a mixture to see a movie with Leslie Nielsen and Henry Fonda together. If you think about it, they're kind of polar opposites. Leslie Nielsen was more of a kind of a clown, comedian. Henry Fonda was always very dramatic and a very serious actor. He was always in serious roles. He was a great actor. Both of them were. Next one is called The Curse 3, Blood Sacrifice. This one has Christopher Lee and Jenny Lee Harrison, she was in Three's Company. I think she was the last of the roommates. There she is right there. And there's Christopher Lee, looking dapper as ever. Next one is called Day of the Animals. This one has another great cast. You have Christopher George and his wife Linda Day, and you also have Leslie Nielsen and Richard Jackal. This is a drive-in style movie. Leslie Nielsen was the villain in this one, 1977. There's Christopher George and his beautiful wife Linda Day. Here's Death Ship. You get George Kennedy and Richard Crenna in this one. This one's pretty good. It was a haunted ship at sea. Pretty creepy, very atmospheric. I like those kind of movies. And then it was re-released later. I don't know how later, like a couple of years maybe. This was with the slipcover. Same images. The next one is called The Devil Within Her, starring Joan Collins, Donald Pleasance, and Caroline Munro. Another great cast. Always been a big fan of Caroline Munro. She's gorgeous. This movie came out in 1976. Here's kind of an 80s action type family movie with Peter Billingsley, who played in A Christmas Story. This is called The Dirt Bike Kid. 1985. Next one's called Dr. Death, Seeker of Souls, 1973. This one kind of had a Hammer horror movie feel to it. Next one is kind of an action espionage type movie called Firepower. And check out this cast. You got Sophia Loren, James Coburn, and O.J. Simpson. You also have Eli Wallach, who was great in his spaghetti westerns. Look at O.J. This one came out in 1979. Okay, where are we here? The next one is a serial killer movie called The First Power. Lou Diamond Phillips is the lead role, and he's chasing a crazed killer, satanic killer in this movie. A serial killer with immortal powers. The next one is called Flavia the Heretic. Movie from 1974. Another kind of a satanic nunsploitation type film. The next one is called Force 5. 5 against 1,000. The odds are even. 1981. This one's called Giallo in Venice. I know this was kind of a hot ticket. I know it sold out right away. I don't know if they ever re-released it. I think they did. But for a minute, this was pretty expensive if you didn't get it right away. And this movie came out in 1979. Let's take a look at the this is what the case looks like here. That's the alternate cover. I flipped it. I gotta be careful that I'm not showing nudity. So that's basically the same image that was on the slipcover. Then you have the disc art. And you can also flip it to that cover if you want, but it's already on the slip. So, and then it comes with a nice booklet here. It's a nice addition. And this was one of the type of movies that wasn't released for a while. I don't think it had a DVD or a Blu-ray release until this was released, and everybody jumped on it. Okay, the next one is called Girly. I think this is a British film. This one came out in 1969. I don't know if this is British or not. I guess that doesn't matter, but I just wanted to point it out if it was, but I'm not seeing it on the back, and now I don't remember exactly. So. Next one's called Goodbye Gemini. This is another serial killer movie. (1970). Gemini killers, they were a brother and sister team of killers. Is that what it was? The Gemini twins. Okay. These are kind of low. I should have maybe moved them to a higher shelf for this video. Next one's called Go Tell the Spartans, starring Burt Lancaster. And this one came out in 1977. Kind of a war epic. And the next two are the same movie. This was the original first release of Grizzly, and then they re-released it with that cover. So first we'll take a look at this. I'm sure most of you guys know this one. This was a killer bear movie, creature feature from the 70s. And they used to tout this one as Jaws with claws. And this was released, and let me see if it shows on the back. It doesn't say exactly what year Scorpion put this out, but then a year or two later, maybe a couple years later, they released it with a slipcover. We'll take a look at that, and then I will take it out too. You got Christopher George, Andrew Prine, Richard Jackal, another great cast. And it's the same, it just has a clear case now. So a little bit different, but for the most part, I believe it has all the same special features and everything. So, and then there's the disc and the reverse, which is exactly the same as the slipcover. So that is Grizzly. This is a pretty good movie too. Next one is called Harlequin. This is a weird movie. This was one of the earlier releases from Scorpion when they released this on Blu-ray. Came out in 1981. It's a very, very bizarre, weird movie. Here's one called Haunting, The Haunting of Morella. David McCallum and Nicole Eggert. Lana Clarkson is in here as well. This one came out in 1990. Next one's called Hollywood Boulevard. And this one came out in 1976. It's kind of a time capsule to the kind of hippie days of Hollywood. And let's see here. We have The House on Sorority Row, kind of a college campus slasher movie. And this was another hot ticket. This one sold out pretty quick. It's a 2-disc set. You get a lot of interviews on disc 2, so that's pretty cool. 1982, this movie came out. Nice clear case. And then later down the road, they released it with a slipcover. So those are the 2 editions they had for The House on Sorority Row from 1982. Okay, I went and got myself a chair because my legs were killing me from squatting in front of this bookcase here. So you may see a different angle. I'm looking down a little bit now. I'm sitting on a chair instead of crouched, but this is gonna be more comfortable for me. So the next one is called Human Experiments, starring, co-starring Jeffrey Lewis. Right there, you may recognize him. He's been in a million things. He's a great actor. He's passed away now, but he was acting up until the day that he died. I believe he's passed away. I think the last thing I saw him in was Criminal Minds, which was it was a great episode. He was a serial killer in that episode. Now I'm gonna have to pause it and see if he died. I'll be right back. I think he did. I'll be right back. Sad to report that Jeffrey Lewis passed away in 2015. That blew my mind because it seems like it was just a couple of years ago. And here we're coming up on almost 10 years. But yeah, anyway, he was a great actor. He was always good in what he did. The next one is called Humongous. I know I watched this one, but I don't remember what it was. I think it was a monster that lived on a desert. Was it in the Greek islands? 1982. A group of teens on a boat find themselves in a fog-bound night, only to run aground on the rocks of a mysterious dog island. I might have to pop this one in again. I know I watched it once, but I'm kind of drawing a blank. I have to pop that in and check it out again. Next one's called Iron Warrior, The Legend. These are always fun movies. Even if they're pretty terrible, they're still fun. Sword and sandal, sword and sorcery type movies, or apocalypse, post-apoc movies. And this is a PG-13 movie from 1986. And a lot of people were trying to cash in on the Conan craze back in the, early and mid 80s. All right. Here's another creature feature movie. This is something you'd see on the big screen at a drive-in or something. This is called Island Claws, 1980. doesn't have anybody that I'm familiar with, at least in the credits down there, starring Robert Lansing. He was also in The Nest, Scalpel, Empire of the Ants. And Barry Nelson, who was in The Shining and Airport. I'm sure I would, if I see some of these guys, I would recognize them, but maybe just didn't know their name. This was a fun little kind of a creature feature movie. The next one I picked up, this is another kind of a time capsule from the 80s, joysticks. Everybody has fond memories of video games from their childhood, whether it was Atari 2600 or Commodore 64, IBM, Super Nintendo, you know, anything. You know, a lot of those memories were great when we were kids. Joe Don Baker is in here, right there. Joysticks is a cult classic for gamers. I know a lot of people picked this up when it came out, just for that nostalgia. Here's another creature feature called Killer Fish. And another kind of an odd mishmash of cast here. You got Lee Majors, who was the $6 Million Man. Then you got Karen Black, who was in a lot of B horror movies, but she was a good actress. And then you have Margot Hemingway, who was the author Hemingway's daughter. What was his first name? Was it Charles? No, it was Ernest Hemingway, I think, right? And I believe Margot there, I believe she took her own life. Now I'm going to have to look that up too. But I know she was a model in the early, when did this come out? 1979. So I think right around this time or just before this time, she was a model and she was getting into acting. And I want to say that she either OD'd or she took her own life. Let me take a look really quick. Okay, so I have to make a correction. Margot Hemingway was the granddaughter of Ernest Hemingway, so that was her grandpa, and she did OD on barbiturates, and they did the autopsy and they investigated it, and they found out that she did intentionally do that, but her family had a hard time accepting that, and I think some of them didn't accept it. But I think that ran in the family, because I think the same thing happened to Ernest. He took his own life in a different way, but still, I mean, it's awful. And another thing I thought was interesting was that by the time they found her, she was badly decomposed, like she had been there for a while, which is weird, because why wouldn't somebody want to, you know, I'm sure she had a lot of friends. She was a highly paid model. She modeled, and she also was a spokesperson for some perfumes and stuff like that. And I'm sure a lot of the fellas, you know, were attracted to her. So it's very bizarre that she was badly decomposed. And I don't mean to be, you know, a rain cloud here and try to ruin a movie upload or update, whatever, but it's just the reality of it, you know. It's just the cold hard facts about it. So we'll keep moving here. Didn't mean to be a rain cloud or a wet blanket. The next one is called The Girl Hunters. It's a Mike Hammer movie. And this is one I still haven't watched yet. I've had this in my collection going on probably, I don't know, whenever this came out, 15 years ago. It's a movie from 1963. I never put it in yet. The next one is called Monster Club. This one's pretty fun. It has Vincent Price, Donald Pleasance, John Carradine, another all-star cast. This is a horror anthology, and Vincent Price is I believe he was the narrator, if I remember correctly. He played a character called Erasmus. He was a vampire. There's the legendary John Carradine right there. And of course there's Vincent. And this one has some pretty cool special features too. You get a 62-minute interview with Vincent Price that was conducted in 1987. And you get a 40-minute interview, again, a different interview with David Delval and Vincent Price. So it's really nice that they added that stuff for fans like us that like to get as much info as we can about these actors and movies. That's a great cover too. Monster Club, 1980, if I didn't say it already. There's another kind of a ghost ship movie called Moon in Scorpio. I put this one in a black case. But the thing is, it's a thicker case like they use in the UK. So it doesn't exactly line up. I may just put it back into a blue case. This one came out in 1987, starring John Philip Law, Britt Eklund. William Smith is in here. He was always a good villain. He's no longer with us either. He passed away a year or two ago, William Smith. Let's see. You can watch it with subtitles if you want to. I was trying to find out if there was anybody else in here that I recognized. And they don't show William Smith on the back, but he's another one of those characters or one of those actors. When you see him, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen that guy in a million things. I just didn't know his name. Next one is called Mortuary, starring Bill Paxton, Christopher George, and Linda Day, again, his wife. Bill Paxton, there's Linda Day on the right in the middle there. Horror-filled nightmares. This was a pretty good movie. I like this one. And here's another one I have not watched. I guess it's a romantic comedy called My Tutor. And this one came out in 1983. And there's special features here. It says you can watch it in Antoinette's sweet dream show filled with facts and trivia, or watch the film only. Has a isolated music track and some tatas. Who doesn't enjoy a nice plump set of tatas? My Tutor. This one came out, oh, I already said 1983. Next one is The Mummy's Revenge. It has Paul Naschy in it. This one comes with a pretty cool slipcover. Movie from 1973, unrated. That's pretty cool. I do enjoy a good mummy movie from time to time. I like the older ones, like this era, like the 70s, 80s. I didn't really care too much for the Brendan Fraser mummies. I mean, the first one was okay. I didn't really get into it that much. But these older ones were pretty good. I like the whole lore of the, the mummies, the Egyptian mummies or the Aztec mummies. Next one is called Murder Rock. It's a Fulci film. I got to scratch my ear really quick. Not that you needed to know that, but so this one has Ray Lovelock in it, and he was always good too. He died at a young age, but he was in Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. He was in a couple others. He was good. And this one came out in 1984. They're doing some kind of satanic yoga or something. I don't know. Murder Rock. And this next one I haven't watched. This is called Nashville Girl. I think I remember picking this one up because they said they were low on stock and I just wanted to grab it before it sold out. But then I think they repressed or reprinted some, so it didn't matter anyway. I think this is kind of a romantic musical comedy. Looks like they're having some fun though. I mean, if that's what it takes, I'll sing a little country. I don't mind. 1975. Here's some good action from the 80s with Chuck Norris and Lee Van Cleef, The Octagon. Good fighting action. Look how old Lee Van Cleef is there. This one came out in 1980. So these terrorists were called the Octagon, and Chuck Norris had to fight for what's right for all of humanity. And guess what? Chuck Norris wins in the end. I hope I didn't spoil it. Next one is Dario Argento's Opera. I have this movie several times. This one has the brand new 2016 2K scan with over 45 hours of extensive color correction. You also get an interview with Dario Argento. Movie that came out in 1989. And then it was re-released as a 3-disc set with a slipcover. And for the, let's see here, for the 3 discs, you get a 2K scan, you get 3 presentations of the movie. You get the Super 35, you get the 178.1, and you get the US Orion cut. And you get, looks like you get more interviews on this one. So you get 3 cuts of the film, and is that right? Am I reading that right? Because on the bottom it just says 107 minutes running time, but if there was 3 cuts, it would have it. It would have 3 different times. I think Goblin did the soundtrack on this one too. And the last one on this shelf, and probably one of the most underrated movies ever, is Planet of the Vampires. It's a Mario Bava movie. I really like this movie. It's from the 60s, 1965, but for its time, this was way ahead of anything that was going on in the 1960s, at least in my opinion. I mean, it was right around the time of Star Trek and stuff like that, but this just had kind of a more futuristic, kind of a higher budget feel. And I think it still holds up today. It's a little dated, but I really like the way that they used different colors, like bright color schemes. That's kind of an Italian trademark. And Dario Argento kind of made his bones with that style. You know, he was always using the bright colors and the dark backgrounds and bright kind of glowing, you know, it's just, this movie is a beautiful piece of art. And although this has nothing to do with Argento, I was just using him as an example, but Bava did the same thing. And you can tell that maybe Bava had a little bit of influence on Argento. But if you haven't seen Planet of the Vampires, check it out. It's a great one. And that poster right there, I have the theatrical poster. I'll show you guys at the end. So that's it for shelf 1. And even though this is a small collection, I'm still kind of taking my time, still making it long. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these movies from the bottom, put them on this shelf just to kind of save my back and my knees a little bit, and then I'll put them back down. So let me do that really quick. Okay, so this will save my back a little bit anyway. First one is kind of another sex comedy called The Pom Pom Girls, 1976. And the next one is Fulci's The Psychic. This one comes with a pretty nice slipcover. Movie is from 1977. These 1970s horror movies and giallo movies are excellent. Next one is called Puppet on a Chain. It's another action suspense, 1971. This is a British action movie. Nice cover too. And here's another serial killer movie called The Rain Killer, starring Ray Sharkey. He died at a really young age. Ray Sharkey did. He died of AIDS. And it wasn't gay AIDS, it was sharing dirty needle AIDS, I believe. I know he wasn't gay. But he was one of the, this was from 1990, and I think he died like around 93 or so, if I remember. I was a freshman in college, I think, when I found out he died. That would have been 93. And I remember it kind of blew me away, because I think at that time he was the first big name to die from AIDS, although I think Magic Johnson had it around that time too. He was HIV positive, but this guy had full-blown AIDS, and it ate his ass up and he died. Next one is called Record City. Comedy in the 70s. Great music, excellent soundtrack here on this one. This is a nice little time capsule to the 70s, 1977. You got Ruth Buzzy, you got Rick Dees. You guys remember him? He was a radio DJ. Frank Gorshin, he was the Riddler, right? Ted Lang from The Love Boat. Alice Ghostly, you guys have seen all these people before. Larry Storch. I think the soundtrack was done by Earth, Wind and Fire, if I remember. Let me see here if it says on the back. Unless I'm thinking of a different movie. I might be thinking of a different movie that was similar to this one, but I thought this one had Earth, Wind and Fire doing the soundtrack. I'm not going to pause it and check. The next one is called The Return. Here's another tragic story. Jan Michael Vincent. He's no longer with us either. Drugs ate him up. Look how cute Sybil Shepherd was. This was from 1980, and this was just before, I believe, Moonlighting. It was probably around like 85, I want to say, where Bruce Willis got his start. Sybil Shepherd. That was a pretty good show. Next one is called The Rift, starring Ray Wise. He's another kind of a B-movie hero. Ray Wise right there with that hat, Siren 2 hat on. Ray Wise has been in a lot of stuff. So this is when you notice that there's a Scorpion logo and there's also a Kino Lorber logo. And that's because Walter Olson, who was the owner of Scorpion, started doing some work. He started doing a lot of work with Kino Lorber. Next one's called Rituals. This is a great movie. I really love this movie. It has a great cast too. And I talked about this on my channel before many times, but this was about, it was a group of, I believe it was 4 lawyers from the city, and they want to get away from the big city and, you know, get their fishing lines out, you know, get their tent out, and do a little camping in the backwoods, and they come across a maniac out there and they get stalked. It's pretty good. I really enjoy it. Next one is called Robot Holocaust. I like these movies too. These are fun, even though sometimes, most of the time, they're absolutely ridiculous. But I still have a lot of fun with these kind of movies. This is from 1987. Just look, I mean, you can tell just from looking at it, this is going to be amazing. Next one here is another one I have not watched. It's a Peter Bogdanovich film called Saint Jack, starring Ben Gazzara. I have never seen this before. I couldn't tell you what it's about. It came out in 1979. I guess I could read that to you, but I'm not going to. I don't know when or if I'll ever watch that, but I have it. The next one, actually the next two, is called The Sect. This is another Michele Soavi movie, produced by Dario Argento, directed by Michele Soavi. And this is another kind of a religious type movie, kind of a satanic type movie. And then it also was released with that slipcover, kind of a possession type monster movie. So these are the two covers here. Next one is called Seizure. It's an Oliver Stone movie. Mary Warnow is in here. And the little dude from Fantasy Island, Hervé Villechaize, or however you pronounce that, Villechaize, the little midget guy, the plane, that guy right there. You know who I'm talking about. Stop acting like I'm being racist or insensitive. I mean, you know, you thought the same thing. The plane, little half a bastard. I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's that movie. And then this movie here was very disturbing to me. This is about a guy who was I gotta be careful how I say this. I was a corrections officer for 4 years, so I saw a lot of things in those 4 years, and this movie was very disturbing and pretty accurate. So this guy here, I gotta be really careful how I say it, but he was a fan of children, just put it that way. And he got caught, and he got prison time for it. Well, these guys, all these guys here, were fellow inmates, and they find out that this guy was a fan of children, and they do some horrifying things to him. So, you know, I guess I have a lot to say, but I'm not going to say anything else. I guess you get what you deserve, right? I mean, there are certain things that are just unexcusable, and that's anytime you hurt a child or a woman or a dog, or any animal, you're lower than a piece of scum. You're like worse than a piece of shit on the ground. So I think whatever happens to you, maybe it's deserved, I guess. I don't know. We'll keep moving here. Next one's called Shredder. I like this one a lot. I wasn't expecting much going into it. About what do you call it? A snowboarder. This group of friends were going on a snowboarding trip, and they come across a maniac out there. And this was really well done. Come with the slipcover. It's nice. Let me slide that over. The next one's called Silent Scream. Barbara Steele, Cameron Mitchell, Avery Schreiber. Believe it or not, Avery Schreiber right there. Cameron Mitchell. Barbara Steele. 1980. Frightening fan pleaser, a real chiller. Terror so sudden, there is no time to scream. Here's another one. I really enjoy this one. Something Waits in the Dark, starring Barbara Bach. Joseph Cotton is also in here. Cameron Mitchell again, Mel Ferrer. This also has an alternate title. I'm drawing a blank right here at the moment, but look at how gorgeous Barbara Bach. I've always had a crush on her. She's absolutely just, oh man, look at those nice long tan legs. Let me pop this open really quick and see if we can find the other title. Screamers. And I'll show you what the other cover looks like here. You guys may recognize that image. That's the reverse cover. Actually, I think that's the cover that came with it. And then I flipped it to this one. I think that's how it went. I like that one a little bit better. But this is a nice little creature feature film. You get to see, you don't see Barbara Bach nude. She was never that kind of actress, and I respect her for that. I think I like her more for not doing that, because you just see her kind of in like wet clothes and like, you know, scantily clad yet not nude, and she's just gorgeous. Here's another kind of a B movie from the 80s, 1982, trying to kind of cash in on Conan and all that stuff, Red Sonja. And I actually think Red Sonja came out in 85, so this was a little bit before that, but this stars the Harris sisters, Lee and Lynette, and you get to see them in this movie quite nude. I believe they were Playboy playmates. They were. And the movie itself it's not very good, but I still had fun with it, and, you know, it's a good B movie. If you go into it with the attitude that, you know, it is what it is, and I think you could still enjoy it, but if you go into it thinking it's going to be a Conan movie, you'll be really disappointed. The next one here is called Sorority House Massacre, and I really enjoy these type of movies, college campus killers. This one came out in 1986. Pretty good. This one I really enjoy. I remember going back to my childhood, renting this on VHS, called Space Raiders. I think this one was limited, but I don't remember. This one came out in 1983. It's kind of a sci-fi family movie. Pretty good. I recommend this one. Here's another serial killer movie called Strip to Kill. I think this one may have been a made-for-TV movie. Let me see. Brand new HD master, widescreen. No, this was rated R, so it couldn't have been made for TV. Is that Kay Lenz right there? It is. Wow. That can't be her, right? I never really saw her like that before. The next one is called Sword of the Valiant. And this one has Sean Connery as the Green Knight. And it has Miles O'Keefe, who plays the main role, the barbarian. And if I remember, I don't think Sean Connery was in the movie very long. And it's been a while since I watched this. But I do remember liking it, and I thought it was, you know, one of those 80s classic movies. Sword and Sandal or Sword and Sorcery type movies. The next one here too I really enjoy. I watch this one quite a bit. I still watch it like every year, every other year. And this is Terror Train. That's a great cover. This has Jamie Lee Curtis. And this is kind of a unique slasher because it takes place on a train, and it's all college kids, and it's right around Halloween time, so all these college kids are wearing different disguises or costumes, and so is the killer, and the killer keeps switching costumes, so you never really know who it is. And you get to see a segment in here of David Copperfield, the magician. He plays a role in this movie. I'm not going to give anything away, but this one is very enjoyable. This is, to me, this is probably one of Jamie Lee Curtis's best movies. So that's those are all the different costumes there on the cover that the killer wore. I hope I didn't ruin that for you, but he changes, is it he or she? Changes it so often that you never really, you're not going to be able to tell. Okay, this is the movie that has Earth, Wind, and Fire that does the soundtrack. And the name of this movie is That's the Way of the World. So this one has Harvey Keitel and Earth, Wind, and Fire. But the soundtrack is phenomenal on this. I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. I think they're one of the best. This came out in 1975. Look how young Harvey Keitel is. This was before Angelina Jolie was born. There's Earth, Wind, and Fire. Maurice White there in the middle with the jean jacket. Some of those guys are gone now, man. I mean, they're no longer... Maurice White died about, what, I don't know. I want to say it was a couple years ago, but now it's probably like 10 years ago. Time's going so fast. Next one is Tower of Evil. This is another British horror movie, I believe, and this is kind of a... See, I might be wrong about that again. This was kind of like a Hammer type movie again. Look at this. This was pretty good. Really, really nice set pieces in here. The old tower, it's made out of rock. You can see it. It's really well done. It's a good movie. I'll have to pop that one in again, check it out. And then this was the re-release of it. This time it has a slipcover. 1972. I think I mentioned that already, but Blu-ray producer Walt Olson. So weird that both of the Olsen brothers are gone now. It just doesn't seem right. Next one is called Tomboy, starring Betsy Russell. (1985). She was also in Avenging Angel. Her name is Thomasina Tommy Boyd in this movie. The next one, called Too Scared to Scream. This was one of the last ones I think I bought. When did this one come out? 2019. I think this might have been the very last one that I bought from Scorpion Releasing. And you can go over to Ronin Flicks, R-O-N-I-N, excuse me, Ronin Flicks, R-O-N-I-N-F-L-I-X, I think it is. And he used to sell some of the Scorpion Releasing and some of the Code Red stuff, and I think that's where I got this. But this is a good movie. I would recommend it too. And this one as well, I would recommend. I really enjoyed this one. The Unseen, also starring Barbara Bach. Yeah, these movies are excellent. And then it was re-released. Let me put that there. It was re-released with a slipcover. And I would recommend this one to you guys too. Look at a little creature feature night. So you could have like a little twin bill of, where was the other one? Something waits in the dark right here. Move these down a little bit. I would recommend these as a twin bill. They both have Barbara Bach. They're both creature feature films, but it would be a good kind of a little 1-2 punch for like a weekend or something. And This next one is called The Wicked Die Slow. This was supposed to be a Western, I think, right? I think this was a Western. And I couldn't really get into it. This one is kind of touted as like one of the more grittier, nastier Westerns, but I put it in and I just couldn't really get into it. It's from 1968. It's unrated. It is locked to region A. The uncut version of this movie. There's some pretty nasty scenes in this movie. You can kind of tell there what's happening, but I think this movie was made more or less for like a shock value than it was for entertainment. The next one's called The Wild Eye. I might have to give that Wicked Die Slow another shot, though. I only watched it once. I didn't even think I made it all the way through. I should probably check it out again. And this is kind of like a Mondo Cane type movie, The Wild Eye. Let me see. They're calling it controversial, devastating Italian films from the 60s. I remember putting this one in too, and I just wasn't, I couldn't get through it. But again, maybe I should try this out. Check it out again. So that was the last of the Blu-rays. Now this last, actually, I forgot one earlier. This goes up in the Ds, and I forgot to show it earlier. This is Don't Go in the House. This is another one of the last ones I bought, I think. This one came out. Is this? I was starting to doubt if it was a Scorpion releasing, but it, geez, why is it so blurry? Scorpion releasing. The movie came out in 1980, but I was trying to see what year that this was released by Scorpion. I would say probably 2019-ish, 2018 maybe, 2017. This was one of the later ones. Actually, this one has a pretty good reversible cover too. So take a look at that. And you may remember that one. Wait, do I have this twice? Let me see if I have this twice. Hold on one second. No, I have Don't Answer the Phone. There's a lot of these don't movies. Don't go in the basement, don't answer the phone, don't go in the attic, don't, you know, there's probably a dozen of them. This one was not too bad. It was okay. This one is kind of like almost like a Psycho, where I think this is the one, right? Yeah, this is the one where the son lives with his elderly mother, and she's kind of hard on him, you know, and she's like overbearing on him. And he goes to work and does a 9-to-5 job, comes home, and he doesn't want to have to take care of his mother because she kind of nags him and this and that and the other. And it's almost kind of like the Norman Bates and Norma Bates, similar to it. But this one is this movie is pretty violent. So let's get into these DVDs, and then we'll wrap this up. The first one's called Body Melt. And this is a kind of an anthology. There's 3 clips. You get stage 1, hallucinations, stage 2, organ failure, and stage 3, body melt. This is kind of a splatter flick. You can see some of the over-the-top special effects there. Pretty good, though. I think it's pretty well done. And the next one is a twin billing of The Devil's Men and Terror. Peter Cushing, Donald Pleasance. This one's called Double Exposure, which now has a Blu-ray release from Vinegar Syndrome, which came out a few years ago already. 3-4 years ago, they put this out on Blu-ray. And I have it. Next one is another twin bill. You get The Dreaming and Initiation. Exploitation double bill. A couple movies from Australia. Here's Humongous Uncut. I upgraded this one to Blu-ray. You saw it earlier. Next one is called The Last Grenade. Alex Cord right there. He was in some good stuff. Richard Attenborough. Sir Richard Attenborough, to me. The Internecine Project, James Coburn. 1974. Looking kind of like Mike Brady a little bit. James Coburn was a cool guy. He was a good actor. He had that kind of that persona, that tough guy look. Here's Mortuary. I upgraded this one to Blu-ray. Point of Terror, starring Diane Thorne, who was in the Ilsa movies. You guys may remember Ilsa, the Wicked Warden, and those movies. She was gorgeous. She passed away. The next one is called Satan's Slave, uncut. This one came out in 1976. And two more. We have Who, starring Elliot Gould. Elliot Gould, I never really liked Elliot Gould as an actor, especially in, have you guys ever seen American History X? I couldn't stand his character in that movie. Just never got into Elliot Gould. Not my cup of tea. And then the last one is Ator, the Fighting Eagle. Another kind of a Conan ripoff. This one's pretty cool. This is a pretty fun movie. 1982, 92 minutes running time. You can see some of the characters there and some of the set pieces. And if you haven't seen this one, I would recommend it. It does have a Blu-ray release, which was put out by a company called Dark Force, and Dark Force was kind of partnering up with Code Red at the end of Bill Olsen's life. Well, they had a nice release of this on Blu-ray from Dark Force / Code Red. I have that in, you probably saw it in my Code Red collection, but I recommend grabbing that one if you can find it. It comes with a slipcover too. It's a pretty good movie. So that was it. Hope I gave you guys some ideas to pick up for your collection. And of course, if you see something that I'm missing that I need to have, please point out to me which ones and leave a comment below. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.